go through the first sonnet in the packet. It is called Whoso List Hunt by Sir Thomas Wyatt, and I'll be annotating, and you annotate along with me and write whatever you like. As long as you're writing a lot, that's what we're looking for here. If you have not, we're going to follow our 3-step reading technique. Here, you need to read the poem to yourself silently just to get a feel for it. You don't have to worry about what it means the first time around. And then I want you to read it out loud. And if you're not comfortable reading it out loud, I've linked a video, just a quick 1-minute video of someone else reading the poem. And then we'll go through step by step. If you hear that construction noise, just try to ignore it. They've been banging on my ceiling and sawing through it all day here, so we'll just do our best. Okay, so let's start out by going through and talking about the difficult words in the poem. So this was written in the 1300s. I do not expect you to understand all of these words. That's what I'm here for, to help you. The poem is called Whoso List Hunt. Whoso is the old-fashioned way of saying whoever, and list is the old-fashioned way of saying likes. So this poem is actually called Whoever Likes to Hunt. And I have a feeling we've got a few hunters around here, being where we are in the world. So if you're a hunter, the poem's for you. And it's repeated again in the first line here. By the way, it's a good idea to actually number the lines of the poem. And you should know in a sonnet, we are always going to have 14 lines. Okay, so line 1, whoever likes to hunt. I'm going to circle the word hind. A hind is an old-fashioned way of saying deer. Okay, so in line 2, there's a difficult word. Alas is alas, which is like, oh, that's a shame, alas. Vain in line 3 means if you do something in vain, you do it for no reason. You've done it for nothing. Travail means hard work. Hath is an old-fashioned way of saying has. And then wearied, if you're weary, you are like worn out. You're super tired. Okay, let's look for difficult words in line 4. Farthest cometh. Farthest is like far away from. Cometh is just comes. So a lot of these, they're just old language, but we understand it. Let's look for more hard words. To fleeth. Fleeth is to flee from or run away from. Okay, line 8, there's another difficult word. Sissons is their old way of saying since. Okay, just some more repetition of earlier stuff. Line 11, let's look for the word graven. Graven means engraved. So like if you have a bracelet or a necklace and you've engraved something on it here. Okay, this phrase in line 13, this is Latin, and what it means in Latin, noli me tangere, touch me not, don't touch me. Okay, we also have a mention here of Caesar that is referring to Julius Caesar, and then the rest of the language, I think, we can understand here. So what I've done is I have defined all of the difficult terms before I even worry about actually interpreting the poem. So you read it silently, you define the words that you don't know, and then you can start to piece together some sort of meaning and interpretation. I do want to tell you a bit about the author, Sir Thomas Wyatt. So Sir Thomas Wyatt, he was a diplomat for King Henry VIII. I'll put VIII, King Henry VIII. And we'll learn more about Henry VIII, but he was not the nicest guy. He had his wives killed and beheaded and locked away. And one of his wives, in fact, he had 6 wives altogether, but the most famous wife is this woman here. And her name is Anne Boleyn, Boleyn. Okay, and so Anne Boleyn, he actually eventually had her killed. And the interesting thing, where is this all coming in with Thomas Wyatt? Well, Wyatt would have known all these people, ran in their circles, and we do know that Henry VIII actually imprisoned the poet Thomas Wyatt 2 different times. Okay, and so a lot of people suspect that Thomas Wyatt and Anne Boleyn were having a relationship together. So he may have had a secret relationship with the Queen. And that's why Henry locked him away. Okay, so that background, I want you to keep it all in mind as we go into the poem here. So let's begin. Line 1, whoso lists to hunt, whoever likes to hunt. I know where there is a deer. So he says, oh, hey, I know where the deer are. Follow me. But line 2, but as for me, alas, I may no more. It sounds like to me he's done hunting. He knows where the animals are. He'll tell you where they are, but he's done looking for them himself. Okay. Also, I want to remind you, we've talked about it before, in the old days, hunting was a very active sport for athletic young men. You didn't sit there and wait for the deer to come to you and then kill it. You actually chased down the deer. It was loud. It was active. It was like a team activity here. Okay. Back to the language of the poem. Line 3, the hard work has wearied me so sore. So we see why he's stopping. He's exhausted by the hunt. He can't do it. Imagine running after a deer for hours and hours and you're just worn out and you want to give up. And then line 4, I am of them that farthest cometh behind. He's the last one in the pack. He has no chance. All right. But we see a little bit of a shift right here. He says he's giving up, but then in line 5, yet may I by no means my wearied mind draw from the deer. So he can't take his mind off the deer. Can't stop thinking about the deer. And at this point, you may be asking yourself, is he just talking about a deer right here? Okay. So I think we need to be thinking of the symbolism in the poem as we go on. Yes, he's literally on the surface talking about a deer, but underneath all that, what might he actually be talking about? Okay, so we are in line 6 right here. Also, by the way, line 6, draw and deer, we have a repetition of the D sound here. That is called alliteration. And we have some more right here. But as she fleeth afore, fainting I follow. We have a repetition of the F sound. And leave off, therefore. He's really laying it on heavy right there, the F sound. Where's the deer going? She's running away afore. She's in front of. And as he chases her, he's passing out. Okay. I think a lot of you may be getting it at this point. The symbol in the poem The deer, I think it's safe to say, represents a woman. Okay, so it's a woman he's chasing, and he's comparing the woman to a deer. And we should ask ourselves, why is he comparing a woman to a deer? How are women like deer? Okay, some might say women are like deer because they're graceful, they're elegant, they're skittish, they run away from you, they're beautiful creatures, anything along those lines here. So in the poem, the woman is a deer. Okay, we're back to line 7 at this point. He says, I leave off, therefore. To leave off, he gives up. I give up. Again, that sense of defeat. His whole tone in this poem is just, I've been defeated. I can't do this. Line 8 is awesome. This is a metaphor. Okay, remember, a metaphor is where you compare two things directly. So he says, since in a net I seek to hold the wind. You're trying to catch the wind with a net. You're trying to do the impossible. So catching this woman is like catching the wind in a net. It is impossible. Okay, so we shift gears again. Line 9, who lists her hunt? Whoever wants to hunt her, whoever else wants to try to chase her. I put him out of doubt, so I'm going to reassure. He reassures the others. As well as I may spend his time in vain, okay? Nobody's going to get this girl. Nobody can hunt her down. What is she, the fastest deer in the world? What's going on with this lady, huh? How come nobody can catch this deer? Now we're going to find out at the end of the poem. So remember, poems have problems and then they have solutions. Okay, so right here, the first 8 stanzas describes the problem. And the last 6 are the solution. The place in the poem where it turns from problem to solution is called the term. Okay, and because we have an 8-line stanza and then a 6-line stanza, an octave and a sestet, it is clear of the style or type of this poem. This is a Petrarchan, or we'll call it Italian, that's easier. An Italian sonnet. Okay, so let's finish it out here. The last 4 lines, let's figure out what's so special about this dear lady here. Okay, so she has engraved in diamonds and letters plain. So she's wearing a necklace that's engraved. Or if you're reading it on a literal level, the deer would be wearing a collar, a diamond collar. Okay, there's written her fair neck. Now that word means beautiful back then. So around her neck, the words are written, touch me not, for Caesar's I am. She belongs to the ruler. Julius Caesar was the dictator in Rome. He was a big ruler, to the ruler. And what's a little interesting historical fact right here, Caesar actually did keep in his palace pet deer that wore diamond collars here. So there's a little bit of a historical reference at this point. Now, in light of what we know about Wyatt and this woman here, I think a lot of you could already guess. In this case, he's not actually talking about Caesar. He's talking about the king. All these people are trying to chase after the king's wife, and they'll never be able to touch her. Okay, and she describes herself as wild for to hold. I think we can all understand that. She's hard to hold on to, just as if you were to grab a deer and try to hold on to it. It's not really going to work out. It's a bad idea. Though I seem tame. So on the surface, she seems proper, but underneath, she's a wild woman. Okay, what's really interesting about this poem, Wyatt would have read this out loud at the court of Henry VIII, and it was really a bold move because he's basically saying everyone's trying to get your girl, Henry, and she's a wild woman. So they all would have been in the room together, and we can start to see why this poet was in prison. Okay, so there you have it. That was Whoso List to Hunt by Sir Thomas Wyatt.